Good. Well, we are excited. It's an exciting time in Alaska as we find new ways to grow the economy and bring in new ideas and capital. Everybody at Commonwealth North is really excited that our speakers could join us today and give us their insight and help us understand better how they plan to deploy and review and invest in Alaska. The welcome today to Commonwealth North monthly program and lunch as we look at important public policy topics that impact everybody's life. I'd like to thank our registration volunteers, Carol Anderson and Paul Myros, for helping us today. I am Terry Smith, President of Commonwealth North. Please turn your cell phones off or silence them now. Last year, the Alaska Permanent Fund Corporation announced the creation of a $200 million fund to expand infrastructure and create economic opportunities in Alaska. After a competitive process, McKinley Capital Management and Barings LLC were selected as fund managers for this new Alaska investment program. Today, we will hear from these investment managers about potential opportunities and their strategies for investing in Alaska. Today's program features Alan Ruiz, Director of Alternative Investments at Barings LLC, Mike Ross, also with Barings, a Managing Director, Mr. John Wanamaker, Director of Private Investments at McKinley Capital Management, and Mr. Craig Richards. He's an attorney in private practice in Alaska. He serves as the chair of the Alaska Permanent Fund Board of Trustees and previously served as the Attorney General for the state of Alaska. Craig is also a member of Commonwealth North and on our board of directors. Craig will be making the formal introductions later in the program. Commonwealth North was founded by Governor Walter Hickrell and Governor Bill Egan to provide a nonpartisan public policy advisory organization to help fellow Alaskans better understand some of the most complex topics impacting our state, including energy, education, infrastructure, and fiscal policy. Our mission is to educate Alaskans about the critical policy issues facing our state and to identify effective solutions. We fill a unique niche by connecting Alaskans with policymakers for open discussions and thoughtful, deliberative development of public policy. We welcome your participation and perspective in our study groups and monthly luncheons and invite you to support us by becoming a member or sponsoring our programs. Would the members of Commonwealth North please stand? I'd like to personally thank each of you for bringing your membership and tremendous work that you've done to educate Alaskans, including our public policy leaders, on Alaska's challenges. I invite the rest of you that were sitting, our guests, to join us at Commonwealth North. Thank you, everyone. If you have questions for our speakers, please complete the question cards on your tables, hold them up for staff to collect at the end after they've finished. Please hand your questions to Aaron or our volunteers. We will ask them during the Q&A at the end of the program. At this time, I'd like to invite Mr. Craig Richards to introduce our first guest speaker. Craig, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Terry, and thank you everyone for coming. This initiative by the Board of Trustees has been about a year and a half in the making, so it's exciting to see it getting boots on the ground and actually starting the process where capital being flowed in Alaska by the fund. So it's an exciting time. Our first presentation will be by Barings. There will be two presenters. Alan Ruiz is part of the funds and co-investment team at Barings and is responsible for originating, underwriting, and monitoring funds and co-investments. His associate, Mike Ross, is also with Barings. He's been there since 2000 and will also be your presenter. Mike's a late addition to our schedule, so we'll have more details in his bio. But Mike, thank you for making yourself available. Barings is a subsidiary of Mass Mutual. Barings LLC is a global investment firm headquartered in Charlotte, North Carolina. I spent some time there for grad school, so a big fan of the state. Barings LLC and its subsidiaries have $325 billion under management and maintain a strong global presence with business and investment professionals located across North America, Europe, and Asia. And we're proud to welcome you to Alaska as well. So Alan and Mike, if you would come.
Everyone can hear me? Eric, what do we get?
Step away from my
Challenged. There we go. Okay. First of all, thank you, everybody. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you all. Let you guys know who we are a little bit. Alan's going to go in and talk more about the program, which I think is what you're probably wanting to hear more about. But I'll continue a little on with what Craig was mentioning in terms of Barings and who we are, just so you have a flavor for that. So, as he mentioned, we are a global investment manager. We're owned by MassMutual Life Insurance Company. We have offices in North America, Europe, and Asia primarily. We manage in excess of $300 billion of assets. Most of those assets, about 90% of them, are in the form of debt, public equity, debt, which is private debt as well as public debt. The remaining 10% would be in equities, and that's where Alan and I come in. The group that manages our equity program is called Barings Alternative Investments. Globally, we manage about $55 billion in the private equity space. Think of it as really three stools to a leg. We have a big real estate group where we do both private equity and debt, and that's about $40 billion, $45 billion. We also have a private equity group that does direct investing, control investing in real asset. And so that would be something like aircraft leasing or music royalties, things like those kinds of businesses. And then there's us. We are the traditional private equity manager for Barings. We manage about $5 billion. We do that across strategies, so we do buyouts, we do growth, we do venture. We also do real assets, so we're doing infrastructure as well as natural resources. And when we think about how our split normally runs, it's about 60% private equity, about 40% real assets. And then from a geographic perspective, again, it's mostly North America, but we also do stuff in Europe as well, a little bit in Asia, a little bit in Africa, and a couple other places around the globe. So hopefully that gives you just a basic feel of who we are and what we do at a high level. But let me turn it over to Alan and let him kind of describe what we are actually trying to do with the program.
Sure, thank you again. So I'll just keep this brief and give you a big overview, a small overview actually, about what we intend to do here in the state, and frankly, leave it open to understanding the market, getting all inbound opportunities as a general matter is our target, getting to know you all and just listening to what opportunities are out there, what interests you all, and kind of work together as a partnership to grow this economy and make a market-based return as a general matter. So I think that's kind of 1A, make sure we make our returns, and 2, make sure it's within the nexus of Alaska, whether it's being based here as a company or there is a, for example, something based in Seattle that has a very large operation here within the state, or an opportunity to build something, a warehouse or what have you, here within the state itself. As a general matter, what we tend to do here, if you go up, number 1 down to 2, 3, and 4, what companies we look at, number 1 is they have to be established. That's the first order of operation. We look to make sure that investments are, that we do minority investments. So you'll see that we make between $5 and $10 million investments, and we'll seek to also have a partner within the situation. So we can't take it down by ourselves for this program. We'll seek to tap our network of operating executives or lower 48 capital providers to help augment what we invest in. And we think that's a great form to introduce the market to the lower 48, bring exposure, bring higher horsepower into situations here where otherwise it might not be as much of a focus. But again, we're a large organization. Our group itself has over 20 people, 20 investment professionals that day-to-day focus on making investments. Where we differentiated, I think, from McKinley, we're going to focus on natural resources, transportation, and infrastructure. That's generally our area that we'll be focused on, like Mike said. As a general matter, that's where we cut our teeth and do day-to-day. So it's an extension of what we believe we do well, what we've executed on for the past 20, 30 years as an organization, and feel that this is kind of where we fit. So overall, look at everything and anything. If you have an idea, if you have a business that needs funding, send it over our way. We'll be responsive. If it's not for us, or if we can help guide you with other parties and other capital providers, we will more than gladly make the introductions. I think we've done so already for several opportunities, generally speaking. So we're here as a resource. We're here to learn and meet you guys and really just start getting plugged into your community here. So thank you for having us here.
Thank you, Alan and Mike. So I guess we're ready for the next speaker, and we'll do.
Sorry about that.
Try again. You don't bring two mics together. Our next speaker, we'll do questions after. Our next speaker is John Wanamaker. John Wanamaker joined McKinley Capital in January of this year to lead the firm's newly launched private investment business, where he serves as director. John manages a team of investment, research, and analyst professionals focusing on private investment opportunities in and for the benefit of Alaska. McKinley Capital is the largest private financial services company in Alaska. It manages approximately $5 billion worldwide for corporate and public pension funds, sovereign wealth funds, and other institutional investors, including a permanent fund. John is a lifelong Alaskan, active angel investor, and entrepreneur. John, welcome. Look forward to your talk.
Thanks, Craig. As Terry made his introduction about Commonwealth North and the pitch to get involved and join, yes, I will, again. And it made me smile because he mentioned Governor Hickle, and I just had this image in my head, and I got to share it because otherwise I'll be grinning and you won't know why. I remember after Governor Hickle passed, you remember he was buried standing up because he wanted to come out at the pearly gates in fighting position. He was a Golden Gloves champ, right? I remember right after his service, Archbishop Hurley pulled me aside. He said, we didn't bury him standing up because of the fact he wanted to come out fighting. We buried him standing up because he was a real estate developer at heart and he wanted to make maximum use of the land. Now you know why I'm grinning. So it's good to be back at Commonwealth North. And as I got the extended invitation to come speak about the permanent funds investment in Alaska, and particularly the $200 million, 100 they placed with us in our private investment fund, and 100 they placed with our colleagues at Barings. It made me think back to another Commonwealth North meeting that I attended, and it's pretty near 25 years ago. And I see some of you that have been around for that period, and some of you don't have as much gray in your hair. But it was a time when Senator Stevens was here, and he was introducing then candidate for President Bob Dole. So who remembers that meeting? Yeah, okay. So Stevens stood up before he introduced Senator Dole. He said he announced the discovery of a new oil field. I think it was the Alpine field, a massive discovery, and to which the entire room stood up, gave a big hurrah, and I think they were thinking this will last our economic lifetime. There's a couple chuckles there, right? Well, fast forward 25 years, and I'm here back at Commonwealth North, and we are still celebrating that economic discovery, albeit not the wildcatters that found the oil, or the production majors that produce the oil. But we're celebrating the alchemists that have taken that natural resource of oil, a finite natural resource, and converted it to a renewable, growing resource of investment capital, and that's done by your Alaska Permanent Fund Corporation. And we are indebted to the vision of the people that created that and the management of those and good stewardship of those funds, because it's given us a resource that will go and grow into the future. So what I'd love to do is walk you through a quick overview of McKinley, and I'll try and be quick on that. We manage money for large institutions, sovereign wealth funds, and high net worth individuals. McKinley was founded over 30 years ago. We're a global firm focused on quantitative growth investing with offices in 5 locations. As I mentioned, the firm was founded over 30 years ago by Bob Gillum, and Bob had an audacious idea to establish a global asset management firm right here in Anchorage, Alaska. He took Alaska's geographic position and its geographic isolation, and he flipped the narrative and made it a benefit. He flipped the narrative and made it the cornerstone of his business in the ability to trade all global markets in one Alaskan day. And McKinley's managed money for the permanent fund for over 22 years in the public investment space. And most recently, we've been entrusted with the further investment by the perm fund of this $100 million in our private investment fund, which we've named the Nanook Investment Fund. So a little bit about our service offerings. We have 4 highly complementary service offerings at McKinley. Number 1 is public investment. And that's the largest component of our business, where the firm has built its reputation on quantitative growth investing. The second is engineering and solutions. Because we're essentially a quant shop, we've got a lot of quantitative talent, data science talent, artificial intelligence talent, and McKinley has created this engineering solutions business. Essentially, it takes those skills and tools we've built inside of McKinley for our use and licenses and sells those to other financial service companies. The third investment segment is private investment. And I'm going to tell you more about that. That's the majority of the talk, so we're just going to skip through that. And last is economic research. And the firm, McKinley's been involved clearly in economic research since the inception of the firm 30 years ago, but we've recently added a great addition to the firm in the recent acquisition of the McDowell Group. So we now have approximately 20 folks over from McDowell integrated in, and we are in the integration process now, but that bring that intellectual heft and research ability and that data that will benefit our private investment activity in the state and understand the economic situation of the state and the various industry segments. So a little bit about our clients. It's an impressive list. We have clients all over the world, pension funds, sovereign wealth funds, foundations, high net worth individuals. As you can see from the slide, our average duration or life of our clients with McKinley is over 10 years. So not only are we proud of our clients, but it appears they're proud of us as well. Our team. So I know most of you here, and you know I recently joined McKinley, and in January of this year I officially came on, and it is a hoot. It is a group of high-powered, high-energy, highly skilled, quantitative, methodical, brilliant people. I mean, I'm having a blast. I'm actually also one of the oldest guys there, which is a new thing for me, but I'm really enjoying it. And I want to tip a hat to my friend and our CEO, Bob Gillum, for setting the tone at the top. I mean, he's built a great culture over at McKinley, and we call this McKinley 2.0. So a little bit about, we have various advisory groups at McKinley. This is an example of one. This is our scientific advisory board. And I just wanted to share with you to give you an idea of kind of the global reach and quality of connectivity we have. This board is chaired by Harry Markowitz, who's a Nobel Prize winning economist. He's also an alumni from my university, University of Chicago. I don't have a Nobel Prize, but he is also the father of modern portfolio theory, right? I mean, if you're going to be in an investment business, it's pretty good to have the father, the creator of modern portfolio theory as your lead of your scientific advisory board. And our McKinley 2.0 leader. So, I just want to shed a little bit of light about my friend Rob here. He's been with the firm 25 plus years, largely in the role of chief investment officer, which in an investment firm is pretty much the top guy. Rob was instrumental and created the non-US and global mandates that really grew the firm to international scale and renown. He is a one-man chamber of commerce for Alaska. He can't be here today because he's in Abu Dhabi at the Milken Conference for emerging markets. And I'm getting calls and texts at all hours in the morning. He before he left, he said, "Everyone remember it's 13 hours plus. So, you know, let me get some sleep." But it seems like he forgets that when he's on the other side of the world. But he is promoting Alaskan deals at a level, it's exciting. In our community, I am really proud of being a part of McKinley. I'm going to highlight a couple things here that are near and dear to my heart. Last year, they helped stand up the University of Alaska ad sale program, which is the Alaska Data Science and Artificial Intelligence Lab. Concurrent with that support and helping stand that up, they co-created with the university a program for student researchers where we've actually flipped the classroom. So the kids from Fairbanks and Anchorage have competed to join this program. We have now 4 student researchers, and instead of them taking classes at University of Alaska, their classes at McKinley's offices. We have a whole classroom area set up for them, and it's a practical implementation. They get to work with Ken from our Chicago office, and who's our lead data scientist. And McKinley's data science team and AI and quant team co-created a curriculum with the university, cutting-edge curriculum with university faculty that they teach for these kids. They get real-world application, experience, exposure to the financial service industry, and the faculty gets the excitement of also touching what's new in the industry. So it's really a fantastic program. We just kicked it off. The first group is fantastic. They're high performing and we're having fun with them. Another note, if you see at the end of June a bunch of quant looking academics walking around downtown Anchorage, that's largely due to McKinley and our colleague John Gerard. Rutgers hosts an annual conference in finance and accounting at Rutgers, but they've been trying to get McKinley, largely because of our connection, our colleague John Gerard, to co-host the conference here, and McKinley and Rutgers will be co-hosting it at the end of June. So if you see these folks walking around, it's quite a conference. It's a real who's who of quantitative investing. Welcome them, please. And then lastly, our charity of choice this year. It's a long-standing ethos at McKinley for philanthropic engagement. And Covenant House is the charity of choice selected by the team and staff at McKinley. Okay, to the meat. Private investments. So we have 2 buckets of private investment in McKinley. We have the committed fund, which is the Nanook Investment Fund, and that's the fund that the permanent fund is one of our lead LPs, limited partners, investors. And then we have McKinley Direct Private Investment, and that's for activities that fall outside the mandate of the fund, the committed fund. So let me jump in on the Nanook Investment Fund, NIF. This is a committed fund with, in which the LP, or which the permanent fund is invested and serves as our lead LP. This is a huge win for Alaska, and I want to emphasize that. Simply having the permanent fund validate Alaska as an area for private investment sends a signal to global investors that Alaskan deals are worthy of consideration. And I really want to let that sink in, because the permanent fund is one of the preeminent private investors out there. They have had a fantastic success in this space. So for them to say, we believe that we can achieve a market or better than benchmark yield in Alaska is a hell of a statement. Now, if you're on the other end where you have to manage that benchmark, it's a hell of a statement too. So couple facts about the fund. And let me emphasize again, first and foremost, and I think my colleagues at Barings said the same thing, this is a financial return-driven fund. You know, just so there's no confusion, we have a hurdle rate that we need to meet, and our target is of north of 15%. You know, this is not grant money or love money. This is we need to have significant financial return. So some data points. Our individual investment sizing or bite size is in the 2 to 20 million range. We don't want to allocate any more, target of any more than 20% of the fund into any one deal. We look at both direct equity investments and investing in private funds, or co-investment in funds, both private funds in terms of other private equity or venture funds, and co-investment with another party to pursue an individual investment. Regarding stage, we are on this development scale kind of from venture through growth equity. And that's, in this game of private investing, that's a heck of a band, right? Normally you get someone that's a fund that says, we are a venture company and we are involved in software as a service in the healthcare domain with hospitals that are painted blue. I mean, it's pretty specific stuff. In Alaska, we don't have that luxury. We have to be fairly industry agnostic and stage agnostic to a certain degree because of the amount of deal flow. We don't have the luxury of having a whole host of hospitals painted blue that are doing SaaS work that we can invest in. So that is a challenge in the sense that in a business where domain expertise often equals success, how can a firm our size and scale be expert in so many things? And I'll let that sit for a minute and I answer it in a later time. And lastly, the Alaska factor, part of the mandate. We invest in Alaska or for the benefit of Alaska, similar to what Barings said. We're looking at deals that not only are nexus here in Alaska, but maybe investing alongside an Alaskan company that may have investments in Alaska and outside, or investing in a firm that has a significant business activity in Alaska, but may reside outside. I'm going to skip that just in the interest of time. So our investment theses. We believe, and I think the market agrees with us as we're finding out, that Alaska, this fund can seek an emerging market rate of return in a de-risked environment like Alaska where we have U.S. rule of law and U.S. currency, right? And I'm going to explain that a little bit later and add some more color to it, but we believe that we can get a higher rate of return, an emerging market rate of return in Alaska, again with U.S. rule of law and U.S. currency. The 5 C's on the side, I'm just going to start at the bottom and I'm going to select 2 of them. And it'll help explain my earlier pause and the pause here. In the bottom of this slide, connectivity. Remember the challenge I spoke about being an expert in so many domains? How can we be an expert in aerospace, mining, oil, etc.? Well, it's with our collective Rolodexes of the staff and team at McKinley, our advisors, our board members. We have a very real ability to reach out to the best-in-class partners who bring that domain expertise and operational excellence to the investments we're making. Additionally, by involving these partners early in the deal, we also not only get the benefit of their due diligence expertise, but we also get the benefit of their, if they participate, of their managerial excellence along the way, and it hopefully will produce a built-in exit potential where this investment partner, likely a large player, could be our takeout and find liquidity for the fund. Jumping to the top of the slide, credibility. So McKinley, with its 30-year track record and third-generation Alaskan leadership and active investments in both public and private investment, is often sought out by outsiders as the Alaska validator, right? And I liken this something to all of us Alaskans can relate to, fishing, right? Pretty much anyone can go to the Russian River and catch their fish, but you're going to be fighting crowds, you're going to be competitive, it's going to be difficult. Or you can go out to western Alaska, pick a beautiful river, and catch that biggest and brightest fish of all. So the Russian River in this analogy is the lower 48 private investment market. It's crowded, it's competitive, people are fighting, jostling for a spot at the table. In my western Alaskan analogy, that's Alaska, the private investment business. It's difficult to get to, it's not well understood. And you know what, if you have a guide that can guide you to that spot in western Alaska, that fishing hole, it's a hell of an experience. And McKinley, we're finding, is serving more and more often as that guide. So a little bit about our investment process. The deal funnel, right? Everybody's got a deal funnel picture. All I want to convey is we have both proprietary deal flow and that we generate, and we are responsive to deal flow that is brought to us over the transom, either directly by the companies or indirectly through intermediaries like investment banks. And our process, again, is there's no black box really to it. We try to rapidly identify if it meets the mandate of the fund. And then we conduct some initial preliminary due diligence. And then we reach out to our partners globally and try and connect with the best-in-class strategic partner or co-investor that can help us vet the deal, execute, and complete the transaction. So I've been asked a bunch, what's the deal flow look like? You know, how on earth are you going to deploy $100 million? And I asked myself the same thing early on, right? But I've been playing this game in Alaska for 25 years, and I felt fairly comfortable. And Rob and I talked about this over the course of last year. So the vintage of our fund, the fund of which the permanent fund is an investor, is January 2020. So we're a month and a half into it. We started developing a proprietary pipeline in latter half of Q4, and we had some internal deals coming over the transom. So in that last month and a half, 2 months of Q4, we took in about 39 deals, 40 deals, with a capital request amount of just south of $565 million. Now, it's a deal funnel, right? You gotta work it, and you can see our first hurdle is an invitation to advance the team to a pitch screening. And that resulted in about 14 companies with a total capital request of about $275 million. The next hurdle was that initial preliminary due diligence I spoke of. And again, we whittled it down again to about half that amount, 6 companies, 6 opportunities, to the tune of about $170 million of requested capital. So there is plenty of deal flow. In fact, I wish I had more money. I'm joking because I got to tell a little story about my friend Rob Gillum. Part of the tension between a guy who's deploying the money and the guy who's raising the money is, in this game, you need to quickly deploy and make sure you want to deploy all the capital you raise. As soon as we started, Rob was, I think, in Asia, in Singapore, and I get phone calls in the middle of the night, hey, I've got a party that's interested. I'm like, friend, slow down. It's like trying to put a racehorse back in the barn. But the exciting thing is I think we will continue to raise a little more money for the fund, and the deal flow is significant and large. So before I sign off, I want to invite you to come by McKinley. If you want to meet our quants or data scientists or student researchers, or understand a little bit more about our recent integration or acquisition at McDowell, learn more about private investment or see the trading floor, which I jokingly call Radiation Alley because everyone's got a 48-inch screen on their desktops. Let me know, or let some of our folks here know they're from McKinley. We'd be happy to give you a tour of the space. We're over in the JL Tower now on the 11th floor. And before I sign off, I've got a short video, 20-second video from my friend and our CEO, Rob Gillum, who wished he could be here, but I just want to send a little note from Abu Dhabi.
Hi, I'm Rob Gillum, and welcome to McKinley Capital. Our staff would love to give you a behind-the-scenes look at trading, financial research, quantitative analysis, data science, and Alaska private investment. If you've ever wondered what goes on in an investment firm, this is your chance to see it firsthand. We'll be happy to answer any questions, and we'd really love the chance to visit with you.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, everyone. Now I'd like to bring all of you back up, and we'll go into Q&A. If you have cards, now's a good time to raise them up and start scribbling some notes. We'll give everybody a chance, a couple minutes to get themselves situated, and we'll ask the panel your question. or you can stay there. No, you're fine, whichever you're more comfortable. We've got these seats for you, that you're welcome to sit at the table and relax as well. It's up to you guys. That's Jeff in the church meeting? Yeah, thank you. Excellent. We've got a couple page questions here already. This first question is more general, I think, about some of the investments and work with transportation. Do you have any ships that carry oil or anything marine based in the portfolio that you're aware of?
So to give you a perspective of our portfolio, we also invest in fund managers, as we will in this program. And through our exposure of such managers, we would have exposure to maritime and shipping, but not outright. We wouldn't actually, I don't believe, Mike, if you know, we don't have a shipping company that we own outright. But we do have exposure. We would be able to transact and due diligence and execute.
Very good. So more of a general question for all of you. How do you plan to leverage $100 million that you've been mandated from the permanent fund and bring more investment to Alaska? General thoughts?
So absolutely, that goes back to the teaming with the best-in-class partners. I mean, clearly, I've showed you the deal flow just in the latter half of Q4. There's plenty of deal flow out there, and you know, part of the magic is tying in with those strategic and best-in-class partners and bringing more than the leveraging more than 100 million.
And just to give you some perspective of numbers on the fund investment side and our partners, we are invested with some of the largest infrastructure managers around the globe. So we have a relationship where we have already transacted alongside them. There's a relationship existing, and at this point, we're a conduit to them bringing deal flow from Alaska that they may have not have known. So we actually went out on an active expedition to call all of our managers, which is hundreds of them, and tell them, hey, we're active in the state. We're ready for you to come meet people here. We're ready for you to transact and understand the market. And if we could be a conduit to that, we're more than glad to. And that's already resulted in several transactions that we went out and strung up. And they're like, hey, wait a minute, we're actually looking at a mine there right now. We didn't know you were doing that. So now that's kind of come out, and that's propagating, and being in a venue like this in front of you all is absolutely helping the cause as well. So definitely leveraging our relationships there.
And from the board's perspective and the permanent fund's perspective, this is really one of the powerful notions of the idea of the emerging manager program, is if there's an investment that either entity is looking at and say they're interested in 10% of it, maybe a couple $1 million, it's not just the permanent fund putting a couple $1 million into a deal often, because what they will do is they will go out and find their strategic partners in the lower 48 that will match their capital. So maybe the permanent fund and the permanent fund partners might take 30 or 40% of the deal, and our $3 million is now leveraged into $12 or $15 million of out-of-state capital. So that's one of the powerful ideas of how you can use a smaller amount of money to leverage up into maybe bringing in larger sums of equity capital into the state.
Excellent. Do you have any feedback, do you have any comments of the feedback process for developers and how you might grow those opportunities from concept to commercialization as you're looking at those organizations that might be just on the cusp of what you're looking at relative to EBITDA, multiples, size, things of that nature?
Great question, thank you. Absolutely, I'd say we welcome early engagement. We recognize that not all these deals are ready for prime time, but we are happy to engage and assist point you in the direction of resources that might be beneficial in the development. And to be honest with you, again, back to the best-in-class partners, you know, what you may be seeking or needing is that connectivity to, you know, that best-in-class partner, which we can help provide. So to answer your question, Terry, I'd say engage early, and we welcome the opportunity.
Very good. So on that same line, how does on the a younger person or startup, I guess you guys are your target, are seasoned organizations. Maybe talk about some of the kind of minimum criteria that you're looking for, years in business, again, revenue size, cash flow, things of that nature, just to kind of put early box around it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we do have a venture portion of our mandate. Right now we're exploring addressing that portion of the mandate in a fund-to-funds scenario, right? For those earlier stage deals, they may be subscale for us. I mean, a seed round or even an early A is not going to be in the $2 to $20 million range. I liken it to trying to turn the Queen Mary around in Ship Creek, right? It's not, you could do it, but it's not the right vehicle for the exercise. And we are a larger fund, so we will hopefully address those markets, those early stage markets, through an investment in a fund that focuses specifically on that. And we're investigating those opportunities now.
From a natural resource or infrastructure standpoint, we will also look at greenfield development opportunities. But I think where our cutoff is, it has to be somewhere near turnkey. Maybe there's some feasibility studies, permitting is in place, there's land acquired or being in the process of being acquired. There has to be a plan, a team that, you know, there's a story there, and we would be glad to engage. But again, in terms of the capital at risk and figuring out what the right structure would be, that's when we would like to engage the market and the opportunities.
Okay, so you use the word greenfield. How about kind of giving some people some context about what that means to you?
So greenfield would mean, you know, there's a mining opportunity in whatever region that hasn't been explored, but there is a geo report on it. There could be, you know, resources required, a road or what have you, but just parsing out what parts of the equation need to be filled in order for this to be a successful opportunity. We would look at all parts of that, right? If there's a port opportunity, who's involved, how is it being planned? Again, feasibility studies, where's the capital coming from? How can we be helpful? That's more where we'd be involved in the greenfield part of the equation. And again, we've leveraged some of our relationships in the lower 48 that have done that, right? Maybe in another part of the world, but they have an experience and a keen eye for that sort of situation where they could be helpful to bring under the fold. If there's an NDA in place, obviously they'd be subject to it and they'd be privy and be a resource.
And what's the low line fruit for you folks relative to the things that are hot on your investment cycle now? Rather than, you know, there's some specific questions on names, but we know that you're going to be protected. So how about industries or things where you see the most opportunity and create the most excitement in our market right now?
Yeah, so I think right now we've been seeing a lot of transportation that's needed and frankly that can unlock a lot of value across many industries. So as long as there's, you know, a way to get goods and services from A to B, that's going to be the #1 bottleneck. So we want to look at a lot of transportation, whether it's a dock, whether it's, you know, a regional carrier or what have you. That's, I think we've been seeing a lot of that. There's probably a good reason and return profile for such investments. We've also looked at a lot of natural resource plays, right? I think mining is probably one that's of interest as well. But those two, many others as well, I'm sure missing some might, but those are generally what we've seen.
So yeah, I'm not going to give you any names. But transportation infrastructure plays that Barings just mentioned. Natural resources, of course, and that spans the in-ground and in-sea resources. Some situationally relevant technologies for Alaska that are at play. Communications infrastructure. You know, it's hard not to be any less obtuse without revealing, because it's such a small pond. You all know the deals. Some of you are in this room, but it's exciting. It's good, and you know, we'll be. You know, the goal is to make these investments, have wild and fantastic success, make a lot of money for the perm fund, and improve Alaska. And you all will know when it happens. Let me tell you.
Any thoughts about creating a vehicle for locals to invest, to partner up with the various opportunities that you guys are finding?
So I wouldn't be able to address that. I think there's a good chance, but I think we always encourage the entrepreneurs or the folks leading their transactions to invest alongside us as a form of alignment, as a form of, you know, trust. And frankly, if there's other investment vehicles that are smaller in the state that are up and coming that want to invest alongside us, we're happy to engage and, you know, provide diligence that we've provided, maybe not reliance, but the more the merrier. That you know the market, you know, you're experts here. You guys live it, you guys breathe it. So that'd be our view of it.
Just the permanent fund obviously does large investments with large entities, and these are private placement investments. So the securities laws are pretty onerous for anybody that's smaller individual investors. So the market's really limited to businesses.
Sophisticated investors.
Yeah, so my compliance officer is here, and I know if I said anything, even trying to answer this question, she'd tackle me. But the answer is there are entities in Alaska that are invested and have been wanting to invest alongside us. So.
Very good. Just a general question about the coronavirus. Any sense, insight about how that might be impacting the organizations or the folks that you know? Is it making a dent? Is it a concern?
Wow, that is a big question, right? You know, obviously, like with the Japanese cruise ship and tourism, that's on people's minds, and you know, the tourism season's about to kick off here. You know, the cargo throughput at the airport. One of McKinley's private direct investments is the Anchorage Cargo and Cold Storage Facility, a project we're pursuing at Ted Stevens International Airport. You know, Terry, I don't know. I mean, we all debate this around our dinner tables, right? How much is hype and how much is genuine concern? And I don't think anyone knows right now, and we're just hoping for the best.
I think we've scoured our managers and our markets, specifically in Asia. We've probed them and asked them the same questions. Frankly, they're also still trying to figure it out. I'm sure there's going to be some level of effect, but not sure how long-standing that's going to be. But overall, it's a story developing.
Given the current doldrums that the economy is experiencing in Alaska, how is that playing out in the national and international markets? Does that come up at all, or is it a non-issue relative to the investment opportunities? Because obviously those are taken on their own.
Frankly, I like it when no one's looking. You know, I don't see a shortage of deal flow. There's lots of opportunity, and you know, I think the partners we're finding outside are excited about Alaska.
Yeah, same sentiment. It's getting crowded, like you mentioned, down in the lower 48, and I think folks are just open to finding the next best thing. And Alaska, there's been people that have shown some success, and the more that happens, the more that people are just going to want to come up and invest.
Very good. So it's been discussed about the role of capital and how it could potentially corrupt. And the question here is, what are the steps or what are the processes that the fund managers might be using or discussing to avoid or prevent conflicts of interest for the in-state investors and how these funds are deployed?
So I think the number one thing we're doing is taking our time. right? We want to make sure that we don't rush into anything. We have a pretty long investment period. And not to say that we're not going to deploy capital, we're just going to be very careful about it. We're going to do our due diligence. We're going to likely hire outside consultants to just make sure that everything is airtight. And we're obviously not going to compromise ourselves or our clients in any situation that could be. So overall, we'll do our homework, we'll be prescribed, and we'll do the right thing, more important.
I agree with all that, and the other answer I have is I live here and I see all you regularly. It's the reality, it's a small pond, and we have a structure and a methodology that asks that question at every turn and ensures that we don't run afoul of anything. This is while $100 million is a lot of money, it's not worth that. So.
You're also taking minority stakes.
I'll just, we are a fairly large, global, highly regulated organization, which isn't to say things like that couldn't happen, but we have lots of compliance people, et cetera, that try to make sure it doesn't happen. I'll also just say, maybe, Craig, you could weigh in on this a little bit. I think one of the reasons why the Alaska Permanent Fund engaged us was to show that independence, so that they are not the ones who are potentially making investments for reasons other than what we've all described here as investment return. So I think that independence, if you sort of believe in what we just said, that's sort of showing from their perspective that they've ceded this business to us, and they're not involving themselves in the day-to-day decisions that are being made. That's not to say they know what we're doing, and we tell them what we're doing, but they are not influencing our decisions on that. So, Craig, I don't know if you want to make one more point.
The other thing about this program, which I think is typical for emerging manager programs, is they're not taking all the deals. They're taking 5, 10, 20, 25%, whatever the number is of the deal. So they have to attract smart capital along with them. So even if there was some conflict of interest or somebody sold them a bill of goods, they still have to have 3 or 4 strategic partners that come in. And just the very nature of why you diversify these private market investments is that there's just kind of a bootstrap, boot and suspenders, belt and suspenders kind of approach of having multiple sophisticated partners. So you get checks and balances with due diligence.
Hey, John, you mentioned this recent acquisition of the Capital Group, and it's interesting. We look at what the university is going through right now, and the brain drain. We're seeing decreased enrollments from a policy issue. What are some of the things that we need to be focused on relative to growing that talent pool that it sounds like you guys are being very creative on how to bring in new ideas and competition to create opportunities for learning in your business?
I could hug you. I didn't put Terry up for that question. Yeah, absolutely. My longtime mantra has always been I'm all about attracting gray matter to Alaska. And this started with Bob Gillum, the firm, and with Rob and McKinley 2.0. I mean, it is about expanding that kind of new economy in Alaska, knowledge economy, data science, artificial intelligence, the idea of growing that with the collaboration of the university, growing it internally is important. A lot of the talent on the quantitative side that we hire comes from outside the state traditionally, and pretty much a lot of it comes from outside the country. And while there's nothing wrong with that, it's fantastic. We have incredible employees. There's also a desire and effort to grow some of that internally inside of Alaska. And it's great to see the firm that's committed to that and not only bearing the cost, but the space and the time it takes to educate those youths.
Fun stuff. Are there any other questions from the group? We've got about 5 minutes. Yes.
Yeah, just clarification. You mentioned that Dow had recently been purchased. Was it purchased as part of the $100 million investment, or is it a separate company investment?
Thank you. I should have been more clear on that. No, that was a McKinley Capital Management direct acquisition, not part of the private equity or private investment business. That was the business of McKinley expanding its footprint. So nothing to do with the investment funds at all.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to clarify that. I should have been more so.
We have time for 2 more questions. Pete?
Craig, in getting the emerging management program started, are you stopping at $200 million? Is the fund going to expand that as well?
Well, the board hasn't taken up an expansion, but I had tea with the folks from Barings right before this, and I expressed my view, which is if they meet their benchmarks and they can return, very attractive risk-adjusted rates, which we're hopeful they can, I suspect it will be expanded. If in their first cycle they're unsuccessful, both companies, I suspect the program will go away. So it's a lot of pressure on you. A lot of pressure on you guys.
Very good. Well, any other questions from this side of the room? One more back.
I'm just curious, John, for McKinley, you kind of suggested that you've got a pretty full funnel already. It's impressive in terms of just getting started. I'm curious, in the case of Barings, what's the situation with your fund at this point? Is it the same situation where you've already attracted a fairly sizable number of potential deals and already see your funnel kind of full, or is it a little different than what we saw with McKinley?
If I can just jump in real quick, the funnel is never full. So don't confuse that. I appreciate the tip, Kai, but we're always looking for more deals because the funnel gets tighter and tighter. We are selective, like Barry said. There is no rush to deploy. We want to do it right. So I'll let my friend said Barring's answer.
So I'll give you a lay of the land since we announced in terms of the deal flow and how it's gone. So October, end of September when it was announced, it looked like there was some pent-up demand. And so we got a significant amount of deal flow. Probably out the gate 20, 30 just opportunities right in. Since then, I think we've done a great job of being proactive, like I said, dialing for dollars to our managers, making sure people are aware, having conferences like this meeting, coming back to the market, and just connecting the dots where we can, where that's kind of flipped now, where deals are now, we're being the proactive ones, where our partners are calling us, hey, I'm looking at something in Alaska. Can we leverage you? We can leverage McKinley and everybody in the room and just figure out, is this a good opportunity? Maybe we know more about that opportunity than they do. But just to answer your question, it's been progressing very nicely. We're probably on active dialogue with 24 opportunities. Not to say that they're gonna get there. We have a very deep due diligence process as well, where our approval rate's about 5% as a general matter. This is a different market, every situation is different, you can't just peg that, but that's generally where we're at. But I would say 18 to 20 investments are currently in the pipeline, about 8 to 10 managers. So us investing into another manager that would put the money to work in the state or within the state or like a nexus to the state. So combined, about 24, 5 to 10 are in more active due diligence, 5 to 10 or more. Let's progress the permitting, let's progress the next step of this transaction. So that gives you a flavor of where we're at. Probably, I'm ballparking on if you have any comments, but about 40 to 50 to date investments that have come through the door.
Very good. Well, thank you for that. Just a note, Commonwealth North produced a commemorative map you see in the back of the room to celebrate our 150th anniversary of the purchase of Alaska. Please take a look and let our volunteers know if you want to purchase one or several on your way out. Thank you all for joining us today, and I encourage you to become a member of Commonwealth North or a supporter and underwriter. Please pick up a membership packet on the registration desk or contact our staff. We are adjourned. Thank you.